We are Baltimore. We are San Diego.
Game 2 of a 3-game series between the Padres and the Dodgers coming up. Very good numbers as usual for the former Padre, Adrian Gonzalez, against his old team. 6 home runs. Yonder Alonso, meanwhile, will make his second career start at the hot corner tonight as Buddy Black shuffles his lineup once again to try and get as much offensive production as he can in the starting 9. Welcome to Petco Park. It's the Dodgers and the Padres on a baseball night in San Diego. Along with Mark Sweeney, I'm Jesse Agler. Welcome inside the broadcast booth. Boy, yesterday's game had a little bit of everything. And for Clint Barmes, it had a home run. He, along with a lot of these Padre players, being asked to contribute sort of in spot start situations, and he's really been coming through as of late.
Jesse, Clint Barmes has been outstanding. Last 8 games, .423 batting average, and you saw the big one last night. Barreled up Clayton Kershaw, who looked untouchable at times. It's opportunities for Clint Barmes and company. When they get opportunities, they have to capitalize on these. And for Bud Black, he expects that. He expects them to be prepared, play good defense, and also contribute offensively.
All right, so a nice job by Barmes last night. Tonight, the Padres will have a new challenge. Yesterday, Kershaw. Tonight, Zach Greinke, and he is a very big challenge, not just for the Padres, but really for the entire National League West and the whole league.
Well, you look at Zach Greinke, great career numbers against the Padres, also third in the NL with a 1.92 ERA, 11 quality starts. That leads the National League and also Major Leagues, but he is tough to contribute. You have to go out there and attack him and look for a certain area because he will change his mind from at-bat to at-bat.
A big challenge for the Padres coming up. It is Zach Greinke going up against Ian Kennedy. Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Dodgers and the Padres. When we come back, more on Zach Greinke. We'll hear what Bud Black has to say about the Dodger right-hander.
Dealer by Petco. What we feed them matters.
By Jerome's, where Jerry's price is the lowest price every day. No phony sales, just pure value. And by Mercury Insurance. Log on to mercuryinsurance.com today and see how much you could save.
Welcome back to San Diego. The Padres trying to even the series today against the Dodgers and facing the always tough Zach Greinke. In his 10 career games against the Padres, he's 5-0 with a 1.53 ERA. So I asked Buddy Black, after all those times that you faced him, how was he able to stay so effective?
He does a really good job of throwing the ball down the way and up and in, which are two very tough spots to hit a baseball. And he does it with movement, and he does it with velocity. He does it with, changing speeds. He does it with breaking pitches. So, he's really good. That's why he's passed the test of time.
So game 2 between the Padres and the Dodgers. You saw the power from the all-star caliber catcher Derek Norris. Maybe some more home runs from Mr. Dino tonight. We got game 2 coming up.
Well, it was an exciting night last night in the first game of this series, but things did not end up breaking the Padres' way as Ian Kennedy leads the team out to the field for the second game of this series. Kennedy making his 11th start of the season, the third against this Los Angeles Dodger team. And the Dodger lineup is brought to you by Hyundai. Pretty much what we saw last night. The difference is at the catcher position. Yasmani Grandal, the former Padre, in there against his old team. A.J. Ellis caught Clayton Kershaw last night. It'll be Grandal catching Zach Greinke here this evening.
Here's the Padres scouting report brought to you by the Tilted Kilt. And for Ian Kennedy, up, down, in and out, and command with the fastball to all corners and neutralize the hot bats against Ian Kennedy. Justin Turner and Andre Ethier.
Padre defense behind Ian Kennedy is brought to you by your San Diego County Ford dealers. And there you go. Definitely a different look. Will Venable's been swinging a good bat. He is back in the lineup in center field, flanked by Upton and Kemp. But I think the one you got to talk about is third base. Yonder Alonso, there he is, making his, third career start? Second career start at third base.
And Jesse, for me, when you take a look at Yonder Alonso, first of all, you commend him for having that opportunity. This is a scary position when you change positions and you have a comfort level at a certain one. But he understands how important it is for this club and what they're dealing with now. Will Myers at first base, also Will Venable swinging a good bat. There's a lot of options now, and if he could perform at the hot corner, that's to the benefit of Bud Black.
It is the second career start at third base for Alonso. Keys to the game brought to you by your San Diego Honda dealers.
Well, let's be honest, Kennedy has to put it on his shoulders. He has to have a great effort tonight in intensity and passion after a tough loss last night. That was a punch in the gut with a 4-3 loss.
So Jock Peterson, he of the 17 home runs to lead the Dodgers, will step in against Ian Kennedy. Buddy Black looks on. And we're just about ready for baseball on this baseball night in San Diego. Sellout crowd expected for the Dodgers and the Padres. And here we go. Can't touch the fastball. And Kennedy is ahead of Peterson, who hit a leadoff homer against Ian in Kennedy's last start against the Dodgers. Second straight fastball, and yeah, last time Ian faced LA, this is how Jock Peterson welcomed him to Chavez Ravine. Not a cheapie, and they generally aren't for Jock Peterson. One of his 17 home runs this season. That run was all that Mike Bolsinger would need. He's tomorrow's starter. He allowed just, what, the one hit in 8 innings.
Well, this young man had a struggling time in his call-up last year in September, but he is benefiting from being handed over the reins of center field.
There's a strike from Kennedy. And the count evens 2 balls and 2 strikes as you take a look at home plate umpire Jim Wolf. Adrian Johnson at first, Bill Miller at second, and last night's plate umpire Doug Eddings at third base. He ejected Adrian Gonzalez in the middle of the 7th last night. Last night's game between these two teams, maybe not the prettiest baseball game ever played, as Peterson takes one off the hip and reaches via the hit by pitch. He was hit last night by Despaigne in the 3rd inning, came around to score, and the leadoff man aboard for the Dodgers.
Well, you think about the struggles for Ian Kennedy. I think a lot of it has to be in the first couple of innings in his tough starts, and you can see just pulling this ball into that hamstring area, the hip area of Jock Peterson. Padres lead the major leagues with 18.9 pitches in first innings. That is too much. It has to be decreased.
See the numbers for Puig through 15 games, a .362 average, 3 homers and 8 RBIs since coming off the DL last week. He's 10 for 19 with a homer, 4 RBIs and 3 doubles. He has stepped right back in, and the hamstring injury that slowed him down certainly doesn't appear to be affecting him anymore. Peterson on first, and Kennedy delivers a fastball low to Puig. The lightning rod. That one's in the air to shallow right field. Kemp and Spangenberg converging, and the right fielder and former Dodger Kemp makes the catch, one away.
Well, you got to like that from Matt Kemp in right field, that in-between ball and communicating with Corey Spangenberg, the second baseman. Outfield priority when you're coming in on a baseball.
Here's a reaction for Adrian Gonzalez. 1 for 4 last night with an RBI single before being ejected. After the top of the 7th inning, he was arguing balls and strikes with Doug Eddings after he rolled into a 4-6-3 double play. Wasn't happy about strike 1 in that at bat. Said after the game he wasn't happy about some earlier calls as well, and pretty much knew he was going to get tossed. Kennedy just misses with the fastball.
Well, Jesse, to that point, I mean, everyone expects a consistent strike zone, but you're going to get varied strike zones, and I think for Doug Eddings, in our screen right there, you saw an inconsistent strike zone for both sides. So that has to go in your mind. And for Adrian Gonzalez, he might have been right when it comes to strike zone, but you can't argue balls and strikes.
Fouls that one back the other way, and it looked like for a moment at least it was maybe going to cost Clayton Kershaw a win, and it kind of did, because when Gonzalez was ejected, defense had to get shuffled around for the Dodgers, and it led to that pop-up error. Justin Turner moved over to first base, and Derek Norris homered right after that.
Well, bottom line, you have to stay in the game, and you have to be smarter about that, and there's a time and place to argue balls and strikes.
We're over on Peterson, who was caught stealing, trying to take second base in the top of the first last night. Had a leadoff walk against Espana, and Derek Norris cut him down. 20th catcher caught stealing for Norris-Saurus Rex.
And for Jock Peterson, he likes to get that little walking lead. Not a big lead there, but he tries to keep on increasing his lead.
Acted like he was going, and he wasn't. That's one out as Myers steps on the bag, and now they got Peterson hung up. It is a tag play. There's the tag and a double play. Sure, why not? Will Myers, a first baseman all his life, will go to the bottom half of inning number 1. Myers will lead it off against Zach Greinke. Greinke. Padre lineup tonight is brought to you by Toyota. Smiling Will Myers in the leadoff spot for the second straight night since coming off the disabled list, and his second consecutive start at first base. Will Venable earned his way into the lineup with some good swings on the last road trip, and so things all shuffled around for Buddy Black once again here tonight. Yonder Alonso again making his second career start at third base, will hit behind Kemp. Spangenberg and Amarista in. Up the middle on the infield after Solarte and Barmes started last night.
Time now for the Dodgers scouting report, brought to you by Verizon Wireless. And for Zach Greinke, Maddox with velocity. We heard Steve Finley talk about that on the pregame show, that he relies on that movement that Greg Maddux had, and also controls tempo, not only to the hitters, but also the game in general. He knows very well the timing aspects of this game.
So Will Myers, second game back off the disabled list, and he takes strike one with a fastball from Greinke. Myers hit that pop-up we were talking about in the top of the inning, just before the Derek Norris home run in the 7th inning last night. Turner and Caspo and the pitcher Garcia all crossed up, along with the catcher Ellis. And that kept the big inning alive for the Padres.
Got to commend Will Myers for continuing to run and hustle to get to second base into that scoring position. Obviously, easy scoring position when you have Derek Norris come up with that big home run.
Greinke ahead of him, 0-2. And you know about all the great numbers for Greinke, not just against the Padres, but really against everybody. 5-1 this year, with the third best ERA in the National League, 1.92. And he has tormented the Padres, the NL West, since joining the Dodgers a couple of years ago. Ball and 2 strikes to Myers. And the high fastball is hit high to center. Peterson going back and right at the edge of the warning track makes the catch. So Myers gives it a ride. One away. And this was the mess last night defensively for the Dodgers in the 7th inning.
Jesse, if you look at this play, and there's some things to talk about, obviously communication, but A.J. Ellis, the catcher, has no idea where it is. Garcia, the pitcher, gets involved because it's in no man's land, but you've got to get out of the way if you're a pitcher. It's the corner's responsibility to communicate. Justin Turner has the big glove, and he ends up getting in the way, but for the youth out there, the youthful baseball guys, communicate, but also know what your responsibility is on a pop-up.
There were several things that went wrong for the Dodgers there, and I guess that's usually how it happens when you have something so routine goes so wrong. Like you said, Ellis never had a good look at it. Garcia was in the way, and both corner infielders were calling for it. Adrian had been ejected as Will Venable slaps that one up the middle for a base hit. That's why he's in the lineup, and he's thinking two. Puig scoops it up. The throw to second base, not in time. Hustle double for Will Venable here in the first.
Well, Jesse, part of the keys were hustling and passionate about the game tonight, especially going against Zach Greinke. You can see Will Venable taking a perfect swing, but getting out of the batter's box. He takes a peek, and he sees that opportunity to get in the scoring position with one out. The intensity, the passion, but also the awareness of Will Venable getting into scoring position.
Five doubles pair nicely with his 5 home runs as the leading power guy for the Padres steps in, Justin Upton. And Upton can't hold up on that slider from Greinke. Justin, one of the few guys around baseball that has good numbers against Zach Greinke. 23 at bats. He's hitting .391. Homer, couple doubles, and a triple against the 31-year-old right-hander. And he takes outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Grandal behind the plate.
Sorry, Jesse. For the Padres, how you attack Zach Greinke is try not to guess with him, because if he gets you out a certain way, he not necessarily is going to go back to that same way. He's going to try to change things out, try to change levels, add and subtract with all of his pitches, but he pitches to all quadrants of the strike zone.
Talking about Grandal and his pitch framing abilities. That slider nipping the bottom portion of the strike zone. And Grandal once again this year among the National League best at framing the pitches. Venable at second base, 1 out. Padres trying to get a first inning run against Zach Greinke. 1-2 to Upton. Just missing.
4 sliders in a row. You don't see that from a Zach Greinke. Like you alluded to, Jesse, good numbers for Justin Upton against Zach Greinke.
Padres had a very patient approach against Clayton Kershaw last night as he spoils that 2-2 curveball. Anytime you can drive the pitch count up against a stellar starter, that's great, but particularly when they've got a bullpen that's been struggling, and that's the case for the Dodgers. Somehow, Greinke does not have a win, despite the great ERA, in his last 6 starts, and most of that is because of the bullpen. 2-2 is hit on the ground slowly to Kendrick at second base. That advances the runner 2 away. Venable at third base, and the Dodger defense is brought to you by Renovation Realty. Only change from the start of the game last night is behind the dish. Grandal in place of Ellis. This has sort of been what it's been for Don Mattingly as of late. But of course, waiting for Scott Van Slyke to come back and get involved maybe. Traded Juan Uribe not necessarily the Dodger team we thought we were going to see at the beginning of the year.
Well, I think of it, Jesse, when you talk about those names, those were the guys on the bench, and it was a potent bench. But now those bench players are playing a lot, which weakens that area of the club. And I think the Juan Uribe trade really influenced a lot of those moves.
Here's Matt Kemp. 10 games now against the Dodgers, a .333 average. And he takes ball one with a fastball. Venable 90 feet away. Hits it in the air right side. We're back into the seats. 1-1.
Just watching Matt Kemp, Jesse, and what I'm going to focus on is not mechanical. How many times he swings at pitches in the strike zone. Because if you do that, you magnify how you stay in the strike zone. I think those numbers are going to start getting to where he needs to be.
Swings and misses at the 1-1 slider.
Start correcting those things, and you see the second pitch right down the middle, but this one is off the plate. Listen, it's tough to hit in the big leagues, but they try to manipulate you to looking like a strike and getting out of the strike zone.
Greinke trying to extinguish the threat here in the first. And Grandal can't hold on to that one. Tipped at the plate. Zach Greinke against right-handed batters who are hitting just .212 against him.
Well, all the way across the board, down below, and he pitches down in the strike zone. You can see the numbers. They speak for themselves. He'll change eye levels, change looks, also change velocity on every one of his pitches.
Grandal sets up away again. He Kemp reaches for it. Little dribbler. Greinke gonna have to throw off the back foot. It gets away. The run scores, and Kemp's on his way to second base. That's one way to score a run, and the Padres take a first inning lead. He'll take it.
Yeah, he'll definitely take it. This is opportunities when you go against a Zach Greinke. You got to have a little bit of luck as well. See Matt Kemp look like a cutter on the outside part. You have to barehand it and throw a no-look throw. And then you take off. Yasiel Puig just unloads his throw with no one at second base.
Going to give him an infield single and an error on the pitcher. Here's Yonder Alonso, the third baseman. And a chopper over to first. That's no problem for Adrian Gonzalez. He flips to Greinke, but the Padres get a run against the Dodgers starter on an error and a couple of hits. 1-0 after one.
thing with Ian Kennedy on the mound lately. He hasn't just been working on his mechanics, but also his workouts in between starts. After that May 28th rough start where he lasted just 3 2/3 innings, giving up 7 earned runs, afterwards he wanted to focus on his workouts in between with the idea of less is more. So his cardio, his weights, dialed them back in the intensity and has slowly been building them back in. That next start had a quality start against the Mets and is slowly ramping that back up. And he says he feels has played a big difference in him recently, which, Mark, I wanted to ask you, when you start to get older, how did you figure out how much to do off of the ball yard?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. And you have to maintain your work ethic, but also know your body. I think when you're a veteran guy like Ian Kennedy, and you have resources like Todd Hutchinson, the head trainer, Will Simon, also Paul Navarro, these guys are always having communication, and it's very important to maintain that, but also know when to pull back.
All the different things that go into keeping yourself ready to be at your best, and sometimes it's a little bit art mixed with science. And Kennedy trying to figure it out as Kendrick reaches for that one and grounds it to his counterpart at second base. Barry Spangenberg makes the play, and one away here in the second. A little bit of a sloppy start for the Dodgers after the big error last night that, for the moment at least, played a big role in the result of the game. They get another guy thrown out on the bases in the top of the first inning, and Greinke's error in the bottom of the first, helping to lead to a run.
Well, Jesse, I think the good teams will capitalize on mistakes, and you saw the Padres do exactly that in the first inning.
Justin Turner with one out, nobody aboard. 2 for 4 last night. He drove in the tying run in the 8th inning. He's probably felt pretty good after that error. Kennedy making his 11th start of the season. Last one was Monday in Atlanta. He had the one tough inning. Took a no decision as the Padres won in 11. 0-2. Turner off the handle into center field for a base hit. One out single for the Los Angeles third baseman. And this guy is he's a thorn in the side.
Yeah, we alluded to in our scouting report for Ian Kennedy, Justin Turner, and also Andre Ether, who's up next. His success, 8 for 15 against Ian Kennedy, is Justin Turner.
Kennedy tried to bust him in on 0-2. He was able to get the ball out into center field. And yeah, he's earning Padre killer status like Ethier. Ethier's hit in his last 7 games against the Padres. 2 for 4 last night and scored what turned out to be the game-winning run. Fouls that one away to the left side. Good numbers.
There they are, and they speak volumes, especially those power numbers. That's what I look at because, now listen, Justin Turner coming in 7 for 14. You wonder what those are. He busted bats, and you can just have good luck against a certain guy.
Kennedy with a little bit of a peek over at Turner, who's stolen 1 base so far this year. And Ethier again fouls one back. 0-2. This is high. Ethier not only has had success against the Padres, but plenty of opportunities to do so. He's played in more games against San Diego than any active major leaguer. He's got the most hits, homers, RBIs. Anybody else playing? That one nearly hit him on the foot, and with the runner going late, Norris's throw down is in plenty of time. Another base running mistake. That one barely got away from Turner, or from Norris, and Turner tried to take second.
You talk about a great play by Derek Norris. This is a spiked curveball going into the hitter. He ends up gloving it and throwing a strike to Alexi Amarista. And like you said, Jesse, these Dodgers coming up with major mistakes on the base paths.
Norris double clutched almost as if to say, he's not really going, is he? But when he realized he was, he threw down there, and Amarista applied the tag, and that fastball just misses to Ethier, 3-2. Dodgers running into outs each of the first 2 games of this series, and each of the first 2 innings here tonight. Ethier got a piece of that fastball, still 3-2.
And he reached back for that one. 94 miles an hour on that fastball with run.
That's a career high, and it's June 13th.
He's been brilliant back there.
Another 3-2, and Ethier fouls another one off. Reached for that changeup and fouled it away. Closed captioning for tonight's game is brought to you by Wiener Schnitzel. Kennedy was ahead of Ethier, 0-2. Now 3-2. As Ian tries for another quick and economical inning.
It's like he's going fastball away. See if he reaches back.
He does, but it's lined up the middle and right towards Amarista. Got him by a step. And a nice job by the battery of Ian Kennedy and that guy, Derek Norris. 1-0 Padres. Zach Greinke and the Dodgers. Norris Rex. Flintstone style. Not bad last night. Just a monster shot over to the Western Metal Building in a key spot. You thought for the moment that might be a game-winning home run. Padre bullpen unable to protect the lead in the 8th inning, but what a moment for Derek Norris and all the fans in attendance. First at bat tonight for Dino. And he takes a fastball strike, 0-1. That's why it's hashtag Vote Norris. Go to Padres.com/vote. You can do so up to 35 times. And you see all those 1s and 2s? Yeah, he should be an all-star. Guy just went a shortstop. Always hustling. Makes it close, but Rollins gets it. 1 away. And it's time now for the T-Mobile game changer. And it is the starting pitcher for the Dodgers, Zach Greinke. You kind of alluded to those numbers against the National League West since he joined LA. Pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And 22-2 and dominating. And the reason for it, he goes on the scouting reports, but also can change his ways of how he attacks all of the hitters. The NL West, they would rather have him miss them, obviously. Doesn't seem like he misses the Padres too many times.
Corey Spangenberg gets his opportunity. Pinch hit in the 7th inning last night and grounded out, and he shows bunt, but takes a called strike from Greinke. 0-1. Corey hitting .255 this year, a couple of homers, and on Wednesday in Atlanta had his 4th 3-hit game of the season. Great series against the Braves for Spangenberg. Swings and misses there, 0-2.
Well, Jesse, you wonder with the demotion of Jed Jerko what that does mentally for Corey Spangenberg. That opportunity, but also not looking over your shoulder at times. That certain calmness, and he's got to take advantage of this playing time.
Reaches out for that one and pokes it back to Greinke, who will make the long underhand flip. And Spangenberg, like Norris before him, hustling, making it somewhat close to away. Nice shot. Hard to pick up the ball from back there, right?
Yeah, it is. He hides it, changes different timing aspects of it, but when you're a number 1 or a 1A on your staff, there's a lot of things you do. You control the running game, you can field your position. This is a former Gold Glover last year.
Alexi Amarista takes a fastball strike.
You know, what you marvel at, Jesse, is the consistency at this level of the guys that you call aces. Constant communication. You see the bench coach Dave Roberts in the middle of Will Myers and Matt Kemp, always talking about the game. You look in the dugout, you see those blank stares. That's not the dugout you want to be in.
And Marista chops this one foul behind the plate. Certainly have some energy guys in this clubhouse on this bench, and I'm counting the coaches. Just saw Dave Roberts. You hear Padre players say that hitting coach Mark Kotsay almost feels like he's on the team.
Oh yeah.
It's not by accident. Some good personalities as Amarista pops this one foul.
Now you talk about that, Jesse, and understanding when you take this job from Mark Kotsay the first year, you're fully invested. That's exactly what he said to me when I said, what was the reason for it? He said, you know what, Sweens, I was ready. I was ready to take this opportunity. I couldn't wait to work for him. Obviously, this was before they acquired all the talent in the offseason.
He might have been the most excited guy about all that.
You know, another interesting aspect of it is he's had so many hitting coaches for all the clubs he's worked with, and taking a little bit of piece from every single one of them and applying that to this job. Those are the challenges, but also his strength.
2-2 to Amarista, and Alexi hits that one in the air to shallow left. On comes Ethier. And it's a pretty quick 1-2-3 inning for Zach Greinke. Padres up after 2 from Petco.
Gold Glover like some other players. They're at third, but I'm definitely I'm up for the challenge. I love competing, and when there's something new on the horizon, I'm definitely aware of it and excited to do it.
Welcome back, Yonder Alonso, joking that he's not going to win a Gold Glove playing third base, but he says he is comfortable, played there during college when he was with Miami, but also talked about the advice that he gets. He's going to still get advice from Will Middlebrooks, and he's going to, in then turn, still give advice to Will Myers.
Chris, thanks a lot. Yasmani Grandal steps in, and check out the glove for Yonder. You see that orange? How about the eagle-eyed Michael Odino, our director?
Yeah.
Machado, that's Manny Machado, Yonder's brother-in-law, third baseman for the Orioles, and that's whose glove he's using.
Why wouldn't he? That's got gold on it too, doesn't it? I bet you.
It's a pretty good resource, right? You just call your sister's husband, hey, I need some tips for third base in the big leagues. Grandal fouls this one back, 2-1.
I remember talking to third base coach Glenn Hoffman, who also does the infield stuff for the San Diego Padres, and I said, what's the challenges of being a third baseman? He said, you know what, Sweens, it's about side-to-side movement, the reactionary play. And for Yonder Alonso, he has the glove work. He's reactionary on the other side, but it's a different angle. Those are the challenges. Also, those swinging bunts or the bunt plays. And see if the Dodgers challenge him with that.
Grandal ahead in the count, 3-1. In that familiar left-handed batter's box, and that's a drive to deep right field. Yasmani Grandal returns to Petco and puts that one way up there and out. Tie game. 7th of the season for Grandal.
Jesse, you think about the location of pitches, and for Yasmani Grandal getting in that hitting position, you can look for location. This ball's supposed to be away, and you see him leaking over the middle of the plate, right down the middle on our Fox tracks by Honda. I almost see him put that smile on his face as he rounded first base. That had to feel good for the former Padre.
Tasmanian Devil. A 3-1 fastball, and all smiles in that visiting dugout. Tie game, and Grandal now 5 for 11 at Petco Park this season wearing Dodger blue. Jimmy Rollins takes a fastball inside, 1-0. So back to square one for Ian Kennedy and the Padres. Each team with an early run. San Diego got one in the first. J-Roll takes 2-0. Hovering right at the Mendoza line. Rollins was 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts in last night's game. Swings through that fastball, 2-1.
It's like Jimmy Rollins had that same idea that Grandal had. Gotten that 2-0 count and let it fly.
21 at-bats in his career against Kennedy. 6 hits, including a homer. And he fouls it back, 2-2. Popped up, add a play again. Keep talking about all the mistakes the Dodgers are making on the base paths. Not an issue when you hit the ball over the fence, as you see an interesting shift.
Talk about Yonder Alonso over on that right side. He's in the middle of Will Myers and Corey Spangenberg.
The rover. And it goes to the right side, but that's Myers. He'll take it himself, one away. Still waiting for his first defensive action of the night. The cliche is, right, you're playing out of position or a new opportunity, ball's going to find you. Hasn't happened yet.
It's going to. Be interested. Zach Greinke's probably the guy that if you're going to take an opportunity to lay down a bunt, he's very athletic in the batter's box. Coming in and hitting 208. See 218 on the season in his career.
Yonder was asked about that in the clubhouse before the game, and he said the bunt doesn't bother him. He's not worried about the bunt. He's like, I can get to the ball. Some of those where maybe you have a little less time, maybe the concern. But look, he grew up playing third base his whole life as Greinke hits that one high to left. Not too deep, though. And Upton comes over. 2 away. Tonight's game is presented in HD by Sony 4K. Talked a lot about the different defensive positionings, that we've seen throughout this season. But again, for a lot of these guys, it's not totally foreign. Will Middlebrooks came up his whole life as an amateur as a shortstop. Again, Alonso, same kind of situation at third base. And just because they don't necessarily have a lot of big league or pro experience at those positions, they didn't just take somebody out of the left field bleachers and drop them in at the hot corner.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it has a lot to do with the challenges of moving from the outfield to the infield, because the game does speed up. But for Yonder Alonso, I think anything that speeds up is the opportunity of how much arm strength you have when you have to make that long throw from the other side of the diamond. Very accurate thrower. We can see Yonder, he's making the trek from the right side to the left side to the right side again.
Getting all his steps in today, that's for sure. Doc Peterson hit by a pitch his first time up. And that curveball's hit into the gap in right center field for a base hit. Kemp coming over, and Peterson, who took the big turn, will head back. Nice job by Matt Kemp getting to that ball. And a 2-out single.
Well, here's Jock Peterson getting that slow breaking ball and staying back. With that shift, your focus is on the inside part of the plate, but you got to track that baseball, the slow breaking ball, with your eyes, and he does a nice job on that hard ringing single to right center.
And keeps it going for the Dodgers here in the third, and for Yasiel Puig. 1 for 4 with a single and a walk last night. Check on Peterson, who had one of the many base running blunders that the Dodgers have committed the first 2 games of this series.
Well, again, that walking lead, the short lead to start. He'll start creeping with those feet to try to gain a little more ground. But for Ian Kennedy, you want to stop him. You want to make him plant and not continue to gain ground.
Puig, kind of a swinging bunt sort of situation there. As you look at some of the issues the Dodgers have had on this double play, Peterson had no idea what he wanted to do, kind of faking like he was going to steal second, and eventually gets tagged out. And then for whatever reason, Justin Turner decided to test Derek Norris like that, and that was easy pickings for the Padre catcher. And of course, last night they had 3 guys thrown out on the bases, nearly cost themselves the game-winning run. A.J. Ellis thrown out at third base. In the air to center field. Very shallow, and it'll be the right fielder, Matt Kemp, calling for it, making the catch, and the side is retired. But they tie it. Yasmani Grandal, a solo homer.
that, you know, calling those pitches in those big situations is not acceptable. And the fact that he just didn't care is really what got me mad. And then the fact that he tried to tell me that I got to start swinging at that pitch because he was going to keep calling it. That's really what set me off, and that's when I was not going to take that.
Any regrets getting thrown out in a close game like that?
Absolutely not. You know, I want to have a nice conversation with Mr. Joe Torre, and that's why I did it.
Adrian Gonzalez explaining his confrontation with Doug Eddings in last night's game. Probably an easier way to get a hold of Joe Torre, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, he's got something right. He's definitely going to have a conversation with Joe Torre. I think there's going to be a fine. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no suspension, but you know, the bottom line, you got to understand it's wins and losses at this level, and you got to be a veteran presence that knows that they're a better club defensively and offensively with him in the game.
He came pretty close to saying, you know, I wanted to get ejected. It's a one-run game, division game, on the road. Doesn't necessarily seem like the time or place.
Yeah, and it wasn't the last at bat either. It was the previous at bat. He was a 3-1 count 3-0 count that got called the 3-1 strike. And then he flew out to left field. He was frustrated at that, and then they continued to have the bat at bat, which the last at bat you could tell he was just going to go. And Frank Garces was struggling throwing strikes, 1 of 9 at that point. That's 2 of 10, and then he swings out of the strike zone because Doug Eddings told him to. But this double play, you knew he was gone. As soon as he hit the base, you could see he was frustrated at Doug Eddings, and you're gone. Second time, you're out. Here comes the phone call to Joe Torre right after where he shows where that ball was.
Ian Kennedy punched out. Will Myers swinging at the first pitch. Puig coming in, not going to have a play. And now he's standing there as Myers takes the big turnaround. Got to hustle back, and he does. Sure. One out single for Myers. Got 2 hits in his last 3 at-bats now as he tries to get it back going after the DL stint.
Yeah, Will Myers serves this to right field, but the surprising part was Yasiel Puig was playing a deep right field. And he jacks on the brakes because he's playing too deep. It's got to be pretty frustrating if you're Zach Greinke and you make a good pitch. It should be an out.
So 1 out base runner for the Padres. Their leadoff man is aboard with Will Venable at the plate. Venable doubled and scored his first time up. Padres got on the board in the first inning. And you see the numbers through yesterday, June 12th, this year as compared to last year for Venable. Done a really nice job, and we talked about it a little bit at the start of the game. It's not easy for guys like Venable, Barmes, whoever else. You get there a couple starts a week, not often in consecutive games. Come out there and still be productive.
Yeah, and when that's the case, you got to rely on your routine and what you do to prepare for each game. I think Will Venable and also Clint Barmes, veterans in the game, know what their routine is, know what they do for soft toss in their batting practice, and they implement that no matter if they're in the lineup or out of the lineup.
Greinke's missed the strike zone with each of his first 2 pitches to Venable, and that fastball hits the inside corner. 2-1. Will's done a nice job against the Dodgers this year. Now 7 for 17 against Los Angeles. Grandal sets up away. And the 2-1 is swung on and missed. Nice changeup from Greinke, 2-2.
Yeah, 88 miles an hour with the changeup. Asked a lot of people in the Dodger organization about Zach Greinke. They said that's been his best pitch of the year. He can pitch it with speed, also acts as a fastball coming out of the hands and has downward movement. Rick Honeycutt, the pitching coach, to the left of Don Mattingly.
And that fastball is strike 3 called. Greinke put it right on the outside corner. 2 away.
Well, pitching in, pitching out, also changing directions, and a nice job by Yasmani Grandal framing that on the outside part of the plate.
Justin Upton with 2 outs and a man aboard.
See the pitch selection for Zach Greinke, heavy on the fastball and locating all of that, but also the changeup.
Justin Upton hitting 9 of his 12 home runs here at Petco Park. This place had a reputation, at least coming into this year, and it has not bothered him even a little bit. Nice slider. 0-1. Last night, a walk, a single, a stolen base. Upton 13 for 13. Swiping bags so far this year. Big curveball, strike 2. Greinke just sort of froze on the mound and waited.
Talked about changing speeds. 87 on the first slider, and then the 71-mile-an-hour eephus pitch that we've seen from Despagne, but you're also seeing from Zach Greinke.
So a lot of curveballs from Kershaw last night too. He's ahead of Upton, 0-2. Fastball outside. Myers, a 1-out single. He's aboard at first. Grandal sets up away again, and he got him with the slider. Justin Upton strikes out, 3rd of the inning for Zach Greinke. 1-1 after 3. TNT Park, the two teams that bracket the Padres in the National League West standings. Giants on top of them, Diamondbacks below them, and Arizona coming up with a 4-2 victory. Paul Goldschmidt, no surprise, in the middle of it for the D-backs. And this place is packed tonight. Padres and the Dodgers. More National League West baseball, and Goldschmidt, one of the absolute best, along with this guy at first base in the National League.
Yeah, putting on a show. Paul Goldschmidt, .355 average with 17 home runs, 49 RBIs in only 60 games the Diamondbacks have played.
Saw a little haze there, by the way. There's a big fireworks show coming up after the game tonight, the Summer Sky Blast. And so they just shot a couple off to give everybody a little bit of a taste of what's to come afterwards. 2 balls and no strikes to Gonzalez, who Grounded into a double play his last time up. That's 2 straight at bats in this series that he's grounded into a twin killing. Can't do it here. Fastball from Kennedy, 2-1. Faced Ian Kennedy here at Petco back in April, and he had a pretty productive night against the Padre right-hander. Double, 3-run homer, and just the great numbers against the Padres once again this season.
Well, a lot of players that have played in the same uniform will always say the right things media-wise or in an interview, but it's extra motivation.
Padres adjusted the shift after that pitch, and now the 2-2 from Kennedy is dug out and hit to left. Upton coming over, and he makes the catch. He was in that fireworks haze. One away as Gonzalez is retired. Just mentioned Paul Goldschmidt. He is leading for the National League first base position in this year's All-Star game on top of Adrian Gonzalez, and I mean this respectfully, it's good to see. Because Paul Goldschmidt playing in that smaller market is really, you think at least, an underappreciated kind of guy. But with those numbers, he deserves to be out in front of the big market star.
I agree with that, Jesse. It's an MVP numbers. And for Paul Goldschmidt, in my estimation, he's not protected in the lineup as well as Adrian Gonzalez is. And that comes into play. And we'll bring that to the question of Steve Finley down near the dugout. Steve, how about that duo? Paul Goldschmidt and Adrian Gonzalez at first base.
Well, you can't go wrong with either one of them. Paul Goldschmidt's a special player. I mean, you look at his swing, and it looks almost like a slump-proof swing. It's so simple. He gets his foot down early and just puts a swing on the ball, and the ball just jumps off his bat. Both of them are having amazing years, but I give the nod to Goldschmidt.
Rips that fastball away from Kendrick, 2-1.
And Jesse, you look at both of those, and what Steve said, it's a simple approach for Paul Goldschmidt. Both of these first basemen also hit to all fields, and they command that left center for Adrian Gonzalez, right center for Paul Goldschmidt, and those are RBI producers.
On 3-0, Kendrick swings and flies to center. Will Venables out there. Steve Finley, what about Will Venable in center field? He's earned his way back into this lineup with some good swings, but he definitely brings a defensive presence out there.
Well, you know how he's going to play defensively, and getting an opportunity to play every day, he's found his swing, and because he was struggling early on when he wasn't getting the playing time, but he's really proven his worth in the lineup, and that's why he's in there every night.
Big time shuffle being done by Buddy Black. Guys playing different positions in order to get different bats in there. Yonder Alonso, the big example tonight over at third base. Still waiting for his first action. You know he wants to get one in under his belt. The Dodger third baseman, Justin Turner, stands in and takes a strike. Buddy was asked before the game how long it'll take Alonso to feel comfortable over there. And he said, hey, it's different for different guys. And he kind of half joked that he thinks it only took Will Myers about 10 seconds to feel good at first base.
Well, I agree with that. Will Myers looks very comfortable at first. But for the challenges of moving positions, and especially yonder, and when you get opportunities like that, something's new, the game starts to speed up just a little bit. You've got to try to slow it down as much as you can, and Yonder has that ability.
And I'm sure Yonder would like to get a ground ball earlier in the game just so he could get that out of the way and not late in the game, maybe when the game's on the line.
That's a good point.
Absolutely, and especially you consider he's moving from first base where there's action on so many plays to a position where he's still waiting here with 2 outs in the fourth for his first ground ball, pop up, whatever. The family leather. Turner singled and was thrown out trying to go first to second on a ball that sort of got away from Derek Norris.
And I like that play, actually. You teach a lot of guys to when you see that ball's going to bounce in the dirt, to take off. And there was one out right there. I mean, the chances of Norris catching that ball in his glove was slim and none.
Now full count, 3-2. Dodgers have had several guys thrown out on the base paths in the first 2 games of this series. and he lays off the high fastball. So a 2-out walk issued to Justin Turner. And that keeps it going for Andre Ethier. Here it is last time. Justin Turner was on first base, and a nice pick by Norris. But as you said, Steve Finley, you just got to commit immediately, don't you?
You do, and you saw Turner take off as soon as that ball hit the dirt, and that's what we teach all the young kids to do. Take that chance, especially with 1 out or 2 outs. Try to get in scoring position. It just didn't work out for him that time. You can get back to the dugout, pat him on the butt, and say, "Nice try."
Turner aboard for the second time tonight. Here's Ethier, who grounded to shortstop, and he takes a big swing and a miss.
Jesse, it's so important for managers and also coaches to encourage aggressiveness, an aggressive play, but also not be mad at them if they make mistakes. Aggressive mistakes, but also teach them the situations. Tim Flannery, in my estimation, one of the best third base coaches ever in the game, always said an important thing: always play to the scoreboard, and that's exactly what Steve Finley talked about.
Ethier fouls that one back, 0-2.
With 1 out, knowing a scouting report has Ian Kennedy struggling with that breaking ball, will spike it at times, but it has to be in your mind as a base runner and taking opportunities.
Also earlier in the game, right? A little bit easier to take that risk.
Exactly right.
Ethier just lays off that one from Kennedy. 1-2. Still kind of funny to talk about the number of games that Ethier has played this year, as Grandal hopes to hit. We sit around in spring training, all of us, as he rolls this one to the right side. Spangenberg's got it. We say, hey, these are going to be the 3 outfielders and the 4 infielders, and it's never what you think. Matt Kemp coming up to lead off for the Padres in a 1-1 game. Hey, not bad, Steve Finley.
That was a fun moment.
Steve, you think about so many of those moments, though, in your career, that has to stack up to one of the best.
For me personally, yes, that was the moment. Winning a World Series for a team, but my personal moment, that was a highlight for sure. Top of the list.
Matt Kemp, Zach Greinke in a 1-1 game, bottom of the 4th inning. It was a wild inning. And not just any game to hit a walk-off grand slam in. Kemp's done nicely against the Dodgers so far this season. I'm sure for Padre fans, a little bit weird seeing Yasmani Grandal in the visiting uniform, and same sort of sensation for the Dodger fans watching this game. And Matt Kemp.
Steve, that had to be weird for you, being traded from Arizona to LA, but having a huge moment and for division rivals.
Yeah, it was. I played with all 5 teams in the division. And somebody asked me, "Well, who's your loyalty go to?" I go, "That's a tough question. It depends on where I am."
Little chopper into the shift on the left side. That's Kendrick playing over there, and he gets Kemp by half a step. He said Padres, right? That's what he said?
Yes, he did.
There's third baseman Yonder Alonso. Played for 2 big league teams, Cincinnati and the Padres, and he hit a big grand slam against his old team.
Yes, he did. That was off the left-hander Cingrani.
It was one of the best at bats we've seen any Padre take this season.
I agree with that.
Greinke gets the call on that one. 0-1 to Alonso, who grounded out his first time up. Is it difficult when you're facing a defensive challenge like he is tonight, sort of put that all aside when you get into the box?
I think it actually makes it a little easier, and it might sound strange, but it takes your mind off it. But just you want to compete in the batter's box, but try to change and separate what defense is to offense moving forward. And I think he's embracing it. He's having fun with it.
Big swing and a miss there. Curveball from Greinke, 1-2. Zach Greinke in his career against the Padres has allowed 1 home run. 10 starts. 1 homer allowed. Last year, second game of the season, Seth Smith took him deep with a solo shot. 4th strikeout for Greinke. 2 away.
Well, this is that changeup that a lot of the Dodger personnel said is the difference maker. He can move it side to side. It can go have that downward movement. You can see Yonder Alonso swings at it just like a fastball, and it drops off the table.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mileage separation in his fastball and his changeup, but the movement is what gets it.
Greinke settled in a little bit. Padres got a run in the first as Norris takes a curveball strike.
Well, like you said, Jesse, you saw the curveball from Clayton Kershaw last night successful. And now Zach Greinke has busted that out.
Derek Norris, after the 2-run homer last night, now leads the Padres in RBIs. Justin Upton had been the leading run producer for the Padres for most of this season. And Norris, one of just 2 catchers in all of baseball to be leading his team in RBIs. The other, we'll see this week, Stephen Vogt of the A's. Nothing in 2 from Greinke, and the fastball is popped up on the right side. Gonzalez going back, and in foul territory, he waits for it and makes the catch, and it's a quick 1-2-3 frame for Zach Greinke, still tied after 4. Our coverage of the 115th U.S. Open Championship, live from Chambers Bay Golf Course, begins at noon Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports 1 and continues in prime time at 5 p.m. Pacific on your local Fox station, and it is all streaming live on Fox Sports Go. All right, let's take a look at our Ram Trucks Tools of the Trade.
Well, take a look at the Ram Trucks Tools of Trade, brought to you by Ram Trucks, and it's Fox. And how about the swing by Will Middlebrooks? Just chipping contest trying to hit the Fox USGA sign. That's left, Rossi. And that's short. Must have been a balata, the old school. But how about this? You got to put the driver in your hands. That went off our window in our Fox Sports studios.
Across the street?
Are you kidding me? Giving Justin Upton a driver? That's clubhead speed. What Mike Pomeranz and I don't have.
How is your game these days?
Not good.
Okay. Yasmani Grandal swinging at the 1-0 pitch and lifting it to Upton in left. Went back, now in. One away. Grandal had homered his first time up. That's how the Dodgers got their lone run against Ian Kennedy. Aside from that, he's had a pretty nice night tonight. No strikeouts, but he's getting outs.
Well, it looks like he's settled in, and it looks to me like he's changing speeds with that fastball. At times just missing location. But he's pitching tonight. And what I mean about that is he's changing speeds, but also changing looks. Not just being a thrower.
Jimmy Rollins, batting eighth tonight, takes a first pitch changeup for a called strike. Rollins grounded to first and is dipped below 200. Kind of an interesting question of the Dodgers, right? How much do they need out of Jimmy Rollins offensively? I mean, you never want to see a guy hitting below 200 if it's your team. But with everything else they've got and what they expect him to bring defensively, as he strikes out there, that's the first of the night for Kennedy.
Well,
Two away.
I think to answer your question, Jesse, is for Jimmy Rollins to stabilize the defense. They changed the middle infield with Howie Kendrick and also Jimmy Rollins, but they want that consistency up the middle, along with the defense of Jock Peterson. And I think Steve Finley knows that you got to be strong up the middle. And Steve, you did it in center field, but also had some talent in the middle infield as well.
You do, and you know, one of the glaring weaknesses of the Dodgers in the past has been shortstop. You know, they tend to make a lot of errors there, and he has really stabilized that position for him. You don't expect him to hit 200 for the whole year. You know, watching his last at bat there, you can tell he's not seeing the ball or something very good, because these are unusual swings I'm seeing from him.
And when the team is 36-25 and has a 3-game lead at the moment over the Giants in the National League West, right? They can afford a little bit to let him try and find it in the lineup. Greinke out in front, 0-2. Kennedy trying to finish off a 1-2-3 inning, and here's one towards Alonso, but foul. I figure the heart just skipped a beat real quick for him over there. Norris made him smile. Another 0-2 pitch, and just missing with the curveball. Greinke's first strikeout of the night was of Kennedy. He got a call on a big breaker.
Well, Jesse, you take a look at the eyes from Zach Greinke, and he's taking a look at the middle infield, seeing if they're going to tip off the type of pitch they throw.
There's Alonso on a short hop, but a nice job, and he makes a perfect throw across the diamond. It's a 1-2-3 inning as Yonder heads back to the bench. 25 miles from Petco Park. By Jack in the Box. Try the new Double Jack today, only at Jack in the Box. And by Bud Light. Stay in the game and drink responsibly. Well, just a lovely Saturday night at Petco Park. Padres and the Dodgers playing the second game of their 3-game weekend series. With Mark Sweeney, Chris Budden, and our entire Fox Sports San Diego crew, I'm Jesse Agler. And the Fox Sports jersey.
Oh, that's sweet.
I picked out Glenn Hoffman at the top of that. It's an easy autograph to read.
Easy.
Spangenberg, Amarista, and Kennedy against Greinke here in the bottom of the 5th. Corey hitting the ball well.
A good time to get one of these two guys, if not both of them, on base ahead of Kennedy to give him a chance to get a guy in scoring position.
That's a good point.
Spangy goes the other way, and it's over the head of Turner and into left field for a leadoff base hit. Steve Finley gets what Steve Finley wants. Leadoff single for Spangenberg.
That's the reason why Steve Finley is a fan favorite, because when he asks for something, it happens. But Corey Spangenberg taking this changeup that's elevated just a little bit helps Corey Spangenberg go the other way. Tracks it with his eyes and lets it get deep. That's just a nice piece of hitting going to left field for Corey Spangenberg.
So Corey continues to swing the hot bat. And now the 8-hitter, Alexi Amarista. Swinging the bat better here these first couple of weeks of the month of June than he did in May. And with the pitcher on deck, tries to keep it going. Mentioned the good numbers as of late for Spangenberg. It's got to be about the socks and the stirrups, right?
Oh, I like the old school approach. That's a great look. I like it better with the low tops. Saw Despaigne last night with the high tops. Not a fan of the high tops with the high socks.
One or the other.
That's the good look.
Spangenberg getting some extended playing time over at second base. He and Yangervis Solarte splitting time with Jed Jerko. Working on things down with the El Paso Chihuahuas. One strike pitch to Amarista is a chopper to the right side. Kendrick cannot make the play, and I believe it's going to be an obstruction call. It is, and Spangenberg is ruled out.
Well, Corey tries to beat this baseball, and it's a two-hopper, and he tries to get past that. Ends up getting hit. He is called out, but Alexi Amarista safe at first.
Well, hit Spangenberg.
That might have turned out to be a blessing, because had he caught that ball, he might have been able to tag him and get an easy double play. So we'll count our blessings so far.
That's a good call.
So Amarista reaches, one out. Thought at first it might have been a collision between Spangenberg and Kendrick, but the ball hit him. And so he is out. Kennedy pulls back. 68-mile-per-hour curve from Greinke.
Yeah, and you see Greinke getting off the mound, too. That slow breaking ball enables him to get off the mound quickly. Try to get involved with that bunt play. He's looking for that force out at second base. Gold Glove winner. He wants to help himself, and when you release that ball, you become an extra infielder.
Ian pulls back, runner goes, and the throw down to second base, not in time. Jimmy Rollins wants a challenge, but as of now, it's stolen base number 3 for Alexi Amarista.
Tim Wallach, the bench coach for the Dodgers, gets on the horn, try to check that play. See Alexi off on the move, and this throw is pulled to that shortstop side. And he's in there.
Yeah. At this point, by the way, it's been, I think, too long for Mattingly to even challenge it, despite the fact that all the Dodger infielders are just kind of hanging out.
And that's what I don't like about this process. Jimmy Rollins tries to put the tag on. He's on his knees, and he stays there for so long trying to talk about pace of the play. This process has to speed up just a little bit for me.
So Amarista in scoring position now, and Kennedy, who'd gone a little butcher play, And he takes a big swing and comes up empty on the fastball. 2-1. Another big rip at a fastball. 2-2. Stolen base by Amarista, allowing Kennedy to swing away. He's just 1 for 15 this season, but he had a home run last year. And like most of the Padres starters, handles the bat pretty well. Grandal goes through the series of signs with the runner at second. And the 2-2 to Kennedy is a fastball swung on and missed. Strike 3. Greinke not messing around, goes right at Kennedy, and he gets him. Time now for the San Diego fans of the game. They're out at the park in the park, having a good time on a baseball night in San Diego.
Out there near the statue of the great Tony Gwynn. It's a nice area out there on the park in the park. All those fans get to watch the game.
Will Myers has been good with runners in scoring position this year. 2-out situation here in a tie game in the bottom of the 5th. And he comes up empty on the first pitch changeup. 0-1.
Yeah, he's looking out at Zach Greinke and saying, what was that? It's the velocity and the depth of that changeup just drops off the table.
Myers flew to deep center field his first time up, and he singled in the 3rd. Had a hit in his last at bat last night. Long pause from Greinke, and another change and another swing and a miss.
See Zach Greinke when he really has to bear down. He's getting those pitches that look like a strike. If we watch Yasmani Grandal, when he's giving signs, he touches his pads. These are for location, and then he goes to the numbered signs for the type of pitch that he'd like. Especially with the guy on second base.
Just missing there. Another change. It's fun seeing the different approach that Greinke is taking. With Myers, after the pitcher Kennedy just saw fastballs once the bunt was out of play. Going off speed to the dangerous Will Myers.
And they turned up the velocity to Kennedy as well, the last pitch at 94.
Exactly.
One-two to Will, and he got him. Went down and chased it. Second strikeout of the inning for Greinke. Holds the Padres off the board. Still 1-1. Double play as Jock Peterson got stuck off of first base. Nice job by Will Myers playing first, getting Adrian Gonzalez. Here's Matt Kemp, little dribbler. This would be an infield single to drive in the only Padre run of the night. Will Venable comes home from third. That's an RBI. And then the former Padre, Yasmani Grandal, goes way out of here. A shot to deep right field, leading off the top of the third inning for the Dodgers. That tied it 1-1. And that is the score. Still 1-1 as we begin the sixth inning. Yonder Alonso starting at third base tonight. That's certainly part of the story. But the final chapter yet to be written as these two teams playing another close game at Petco Park. Ian Kennedy back to work against the top of the Dodger order. And the leadoff man, Jock Peterson, swings at the first pitch. Shallow left. Amarista was in on the shift, but Upton takes command and makes the catch. One away. The dangers of the shift. Amarista was the only infielder on the left side, and he was playing in because Peterson is a bunt threat. A nice athletic play by Justin Upton to come in and make that catch. And a nice start to the inning for Ian Kennedy. Twice tonight, Yasiel Puig has popped to right. And he swings at the first pitch, but grounds it up the middle for a base hit. Puig on board for the first time tonight. Puig has now reached base in 16 of the 17 games he has played in. You know about the hot start for Adrian Gonzalez that first month of the season, but a little bit of a different story the last 30 days.
Well, when you have that hot start, they're going to start changing the way they throw to you. And this game is all about adjustments, and the league will adjust to you and probably pitch around you if you're hot. It's one of the main things that goes through the scouting reports immediately.
He swings at the first pitch and lofts it into shallow left. Upton's got time and space, and the ball 2 away. Aggressive approach by the top of the Dodger order here against Ian Kennedy in the sixth. So 2 outs, runner on first, and the cleanup man, Howie Kendrick, against Ian Kennedy. Strike 1 to Kendrick. So far, so good for Kennedy. Yeah, the home run to Grandal, but he's been efficient. 75 pitches here in the sixth inning. Certainly love it when the starter is performing well enough and efficiently enough to pitch deep into a game. You don't see it all that much today in baseball as he lines that one to right field. Could be trouble, but a foul ball. But you look at the actual number of innings that starters go around baseball, the numbers might surprise you. Padres starters averaging 5.92 innings per start. You say, man, that's less than 6, but look at the National League average. Padres actually ahead of the average when it comes to the length of starts.
Yeah, and you look at the start tonight from Ian Kennedy and the importance of going deep in the ball game and the challenges that you have, as we saw Darren Balsley, the pitching coach for the Padres, but it's that opportunity, knowing you have to have a good pitching effort and going out there and throwing that one. That's what I think the Padres starters definitely need, that consistency factor of getting into the 6th and 7th inning and having that opportunity to go deeper in the ball game, 8th and 9th.
It affects so many things. Most obviously the bullpen. 2 to Kendricks in the dirt.
Well, Jesse, some of the challenges for the Padres, and you look at the numbers, and they lead the league in most pitches thrown in the first inning, 18.9. And those are some of the things, if you know, when you go through bad streaks, those things happen, and it doesn't enable you to get deep in the ball games. It's not that they haven't pitched well, but they've had opportunities at the beginning of the games and haven't dealt with that too much.
Tries to get Kendrick to chase there.
Well, I think pitch counts and the specialization of the game now is what's leading to a lot of those numbers too. I mean, they look at pitch counts on a pitcher now as, you know, after he gets past 100 pitches, better get him out of the game instead of looking how the guy's throwing. You know, maybe he can go past 100. I remember guys were going 120, 125 pitches when I was with the Diamondbacks.
Clayton Kershaw last night at season high 117 pitches. Kendrick swings and misses, strike 3. Kennedy got him with the changeup, his second strikeout of the night, and 6 strong from Ian Kennedy against the Dodgers here on a Saturday night at Petco. Kendrick goes chasing the change, 1-1. So far, San Diego coming to bat in the bottom of the 6th, and how about that, a little intra-city love. Chargers president and CEO Dean Spanos, a guest of Padres executive chairman Ron Fowler here at Petco Park tonight. Hey, this is the place to be in San Diego on this Saturday night.
Great atmosphere tonight, and packed house. Obviously the fireworks after the game, but this atmosphere is exactly what every player on the field wants to play in front of.
Ball and no strikes to Will Venable, who chops that one foul to the right side. Will has scored the only run of the night for the Padres. 1 out double in the first and came home on Matt Kemp's infield single. That one's lined to right. Puig coming over, not going to get there. And Venable, who had the hustle double back in the first inning, takes the turn, retreats, and a leadoff man aboard for the Padres with a second consecutive inning against Zach Greinke.
It almost looked like Will Venable sat on this curveball. You've seen a lot of him, and he's gained some information with that slow breaking ball. With Zach Greinke falling in love with it. But the simple approach, getting that foot down and driving this to right field on a line.
See if the Padres can do something with it against Greinke. Justin Upton and then Matt Kemp. Close play over at first base, but Venable gets back.
With the quick feet of Zach Greinke, and also that left-handed glove by Adrian Gonzalez, he can let this ball travel and put that tag down.
Here comes the delays again, checking the replays.
It's got to go away.
Well, Gonzalez thought that he had gotten Venable, and it looked as if he said that to Greinke, and Greinke kind of shook him off like, nah, he was in there. I had a good look at it. He didn't want to waste any time, just wanted to get back to work and deal with a big task at hand, Justin Upton.
He hasn't given anything to Justin Upton. Middle in all night long. Been a heavy dose of the sliders, the fastball, that last pitch.
Ground out and a strikeout for Upton, and a lot of strikes thrown by Greinke. Close pitch went his way. Now the 0-1. And Upton up the middle. Rollins with the play. They go to second and they get him. Talked about the defensive presence that Jimmy Rollins brings to the middle of the infield. Thinking maybe he could have had two with a more accurate flip, but they get the lead runner.
Well, the struggle with the bat, but not the glove. And Jimmy Rollins brings that presence, the strength in the middle of the diamond. And I think Zach Greinke appreciates that defensive effort by the veteran.
You can tell Jimmy Rollins' standard for himself defensively is pretty high. Makes a huge play there just to keep that ball on the infield and get it out. And he's apologizing for not turning two. Here's Matt Kemp. Grounded into the shift his last time up. RBI single in the first. And Justin Upton, perfect in the stolen base department over at first. Strike one. Among the National League leaders, and Upton also the only guy in all of baseball who's got at least 8 steals this year without being caught. He's 13 for 13. Fastball, Rollins at the shift, goes to second for one, and a double play. Upton had a good hard slide at second, but not enough. Kemp grounds into an inning-ending double play. We go to the 7th, still tied, 1-1. Banquet as we begin the 7th inning, 1-1 on this date. What, 3 years ago? I think 3 years ago. Yeah, 2012. Matt Cain, a perfect game as the Giants beat up on the Astros, the first perfecto in San Francisco Giant history. And of course, they added another no-hitter to their list last week. Chris Heston against the Mets at Citi Field. 4 straight seasons now that the Giants have thrown a no-hitter.
Yeah, 17 total in that franchise's history.
So good for them. Justin Turner, Andre Ethier, and Yasmani Grandal against Ian Kennedy here in the 7th. Battle of the Red Beards, and ball one from Kennedy. He's trying to get through the 7th inning for just the 2nd time this season. Did so in San Francisco back on May 6th. That one's ripped to left, but foul.
Jesse, while we have a moment, we hope our good friend Dick Enberg is having a great weekend. He's in Orlando, Florida for the annual Academic All-America Hall of Fame ceremonies. He's been the spokesman for the program for 25 years. There's also an Enberg Award that goes to the person who shares his passion for academics and athletics. This year, former tennis star Andre Agassi is getting the Professor's Award. Dick will be back on air Wednesday when the Padres are in Oakland, California. That's the reason why you hear our voices. But congratulations, Professor, and also the award winner.
Great cause for Dick to get behind. 2-1 to Turner is outside. 3-1 to the Dodger third baseman, who's reached twice tonight. Reaches for that fastball, and now 3-2. What do you make of the 2 strikeouts for Ian Kennedy?
Well, I think he's been efficient. You touched on that earlier in the game, and looks like he's commanding both sides of the plate, changing looks. Also making it uncomfortable after that Grandal home run. He looks like he's been locked in.
Talked about Turner having success against the Padres, against Kennedy as well. 8 for 15 against Ian, and wants to take a moment for himself before this 3-2 offering. Into the seats. Foul ball, nearly a nice grab. Let's take a look now at the National University National League West standings. Giants drop a half game to the Dodgers after they lost to Arizona earlier. Hopefully they get that half game back.
Yeah, a lot of parity in this division.
Turner swings and misses. Strike 3. Kennedy using the changeup to record his 3rd K of the night. One away here in the 7th. Good battle between Kennedy and Turner.
Yeah, and Turner's had success against Ian Kennedy, and you can see him changing ways of the approach in the changeup, eliminating Justin Turner.
It's always fun watching pitchers over the course of the night, trying to figure out what's working for them in a given game. And Ian Kennedy certainly seems to have that figured out tonight.
Oh, I agree with you, Jesse. You got to figure out ways of what's working for you. You see the improved breaking ball right there from Ian Kennedy. The changeup, we've seen him lead off hitters with the changeup. But different thoughts, because it is a guessing game when you're in the batter's box.
No balls and a strike to Ether, who's grounded out a couple of times tonight. Can't touch that fastball from Ian Kennedy as we check the Cholula flamethrower. And Steve Finley mentioned it earlier. Ian's ramped it up a couple of times tonight.
Yeah, reach back 94. That's hot sauce. And I talked to Darren Balsey, the pitching coach. His mile per hour has been up 2 miles per hour this year.
Jumper to second. Spangenberg gonna have to hurry a little bit. Nice play. 2 away. All smiles from Corey Spangenberg. Two outs now in the top of the 7th inning. Alonso, Norris, and Spangenberg due up in the bottom half. Yasmani Grandal coming up now, and that's what he did back in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, 3-1 count, got in the hitter's count. Look for that pitch. I think that's to the benefit when you catch a pitcher. You understand the tendencies and what he's going to try to do, and what Yasmani Grandal did.
Some good baseball tonight between these two teams, and Kennedy delivers the fastball.
Right in that hot zone for Yasmani Grandal on that first at bat.
Grandal led the Padres in home runs last season, and that power was on display here tonight. He's now homered in 2 straight games. Didn't play yesterday and hit one out of the park against the Diamondbacks in the last game of their series against AZ. Having watched Grandal the last couple of years, it shouldn't surprise you that all 7 of his home runs now have come batting left-handed.
Yeah, dominating on the left-handed side. Right-handed he has struggled, but also a better base with that knee that he had trouble with, getting stronger. Talked to Nomar Garcia-Parra, the Dodgers analyst, and he said, you know what, he's made an adjustment, but he's been a little more aggressive. There's Nomar, along with Charlie Steiner. Nomar Garcia-Parra. He was up there in Boston. That's my East Coast. That's all I got.
Spoken like a true Maine black bear.
I know.
Full count from Kennedy to Grandal. But yeah, definite adjustment by Grandal. He's kind of been hot and cold. Was on that 7-day concussion DL as well. Still 3-2. Got him. Curveball freezes Grandal. Second strikeout of the inning for Ian Kennedy, and a 1-2-3-7 tie game. And guess who's coming up? Derek Norris had the big bomb in the 7th inning last night. He'll hit second in the 7th here this evening. Still tied, Padres and Dodgers. And by Sony 4K, the leader of 4K Ultra HD. Bottom of the 7th inning at Petco Park, Padres and the Dodgers tied 1-1 as Yonder Alonso steps in against Zach Greinke. 7 strong from Ian Kennedy. And the Padre offense now going to try and get it going against one of the toughest pitchers in baseball. Gotta like that. Yonder 0 for 2 tonight. Made the start at third base where he's had not much action. Just one ground ball over there, and he made a nice play. Brandon Maurer available tonight. Alonso all the way back in the batter's box against Greinke. Grandal sets up away, and the 0-2 is a fastball. Strike 3 call.
This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the San Diego Padres may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the San Diego Padres.
That's not the look of a guy who's done. Or maybe not. Gets the handshake from Dave Roberts. We'll see. Derek Norris, 2-run homer in the 7th last night on the first pitch. And this one's out to center, but not deep. Peterson coming in. Kendrick going back, and it falls in. It gets behind Peterson, but Norris will stay at first base. That'll do.
Yeah, Jesse, I wonder if Jock Peterson got deked by the swing of Derek Norris. As in center field, you see the swing in your reaction, and sometimes you freeze as an outfielder. But the swing just off the barrel of the bat, off the end of Derek Norris's bat. He watched Jock Peterson. He goes to that left side and then tries to gain ground by putting his head down. That falls in nicely for Derek Norris.
Padres have had base runners against Greinke tonight. Able to push over a run in the first, but he's kept him off the board since. Spangenberg singled to lead off the 5th inning. He's 1 for 2 tonight.
Yeah, and the bunting situation last time, which this might be for Corey Spangenberg. Zach Greinke threw that slow breaking ball and got off the mound to the left side. See Justin Turner in on the grass looking for that bunt. This is also a hit and run situation.
Spangy's got some pop, and he takes the fastball low.
So many options for Bud Black when you have a guy like Corey Spangenberg that can handle the bat. Also speed in Derek Norris at first base. You got to take opportunities against the ace, Zach Greinke.
Norris leads away. And a check. Great crowd on hand for this baseball night in San Diego. 8th sellout of the season. 43,525. Greinke's been tough, as expected. Kennedy has matched him blow for blow.
I saw Mark Kotze, the hitting coach, having discussions with Bud Black. That pitcher spot is coming up. We saw Dave Roberts, the bench coach, shake Ian Kennedy's hand. It's who's going to be the better matchup. That's what a hitting coach does late in the games.
Outside, ball 3.
Now that's a good take on that changeup.
Saw the ball strike ratio earlier. It has been pristine for Greinke. This is the first 3-ball count of the night. Not 3-0. First time there's been 3 balls on any Padre hitter.
Unbelievable. We heard Steve Finley in our pregame show mention that he reminds him of Greg Maddux, probably with a little more velocity, but the same approach. Strike throwers that know how to manipulate the baseball.
Got to figure this one will be right down the middle, but he misses. Ball 4 to Spangenberg. And so after he goes to a 3-ball count for the first time tonight, he issues a 4-pitch walk to Spangenberg. And the Pods have 2 on with Amarista coming up. All right, here's a memorable moment in Padre history brought to you by Geico. Less than a year ago, August 30th of last season, Amarista, a walk-off single against the Dodgers. That was the 3rd straight walk-off win for the Padres.
Celebrate!
Fun little stretch in late August last year.
I love celebrations. I want to see one.
So Amarista came through late August against LA last year. Big spot for Alexi here in mid-June 2015. Single and a stolen base. And ball 1.
Here was Solarte, gets a bat. He's on the on-deck circle.
As you can see, they play behind Spangenberg. So he and Norris walk off their leads. 1 out, bottom of the 7th. And Amarista to the right side. Kendrick has it. They go to second for 1, and that will be all. Norris at third, Alexi at first, 2 away. And that will end the Ian Kennedy's night.
Well, nice night in the big leagues for Ian Kennedy. Settled in, only had that one blemish, the home run to Yasmani Grandal, as Rick Honeycutt goes out and have discussions about how they attack Yangervis Solarte.
Yangervis Solarte has been huge in these situations. Had a big hit against the Braves in the Padres last series, the 11th inning, a 2-run single, which proved to be the game winner in the series finale against Atlanta. And he has been one of the best runners in scoring position hitters all season long for San Diego.
Jesse, when you think about opportunities, and when Yangervis Solarte is on the bench, he's got a base of at-bats, timing, everything involved, and he knows he's prepared for this moment in the game.
Mike Bolsinger outstanding against the Padres back at Dodger Stadium last time he met up. And the ace, James Shields, on the hill tomorrow, day baseball, which I hope would be the rubber game of this series. 2 on, 2 out for Solarte. Yangervis last night 1 for 3 with a walk and a double. It's much better from the left side. And as mentioned, one of the best RISP guys for the Pods all year. 1-1. Norris 90 feet away. Amarista, the runner at first. Just 85 pitches for Greinke here with 2 outs in the 7th. Been a well-pitched game. Changeup misses, 2-1.
Yeah, and that's a good take. 1-1 count. You get that hard changeup. As a bench player, you try to take in as much information as you can, watching the game, learning the game for this situation.
Hits that one in the air to left. Pretty routine for Ethier. Makes the catch, and that's it for the Padres here in the 7th. They made some noise against Greinke, but leave 2, and we're still tied.
Pomeranz working on Padres Live, the post-game show, which will be brought to you by Cox Communications. Steve, right now, good outing by Ian Kennedy. His night is done, and hopefully this plays into the Padres' advantage because the Dodgers have had trouble with their bullpen.
They surely have. They've had some injuries they're dealing with right now, trying to bridge to Kenley Jansen. Hopefully they can get in that bullpen tonight. But right now our bullpen's rested. We got Mauer rested, Benoit, Kimbrel. So I like where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, it sets up nicely, and you really got to tip your cap to the job by Ian Kennedy, I believe, guys. When we see in a post-game show, we'll talk about everything that happens here. Also get you inside the clubhouse. You're going to hear the thoughts of the manager, Buddy Black, his opinion of what's gone on in the start by Ian Kennedy. And we're going to have a preview of Padres Social Hour starring the incomparable Kurt Bavacqua, who is filling in for Jesse Agler because Jesse is kind enough to fill in for Dick Enberg, guys.
Yeah, it's like a dominoes kind of thing.
All kinds of moving parts.
Incomparable is a great word choice, by the way. The El Cajon Ford pitching change is Brandon Mauer on for the 30th time this year, and he has been outstanding. Jimmy Rollins leads off, and he takes strike one. Nice tight slider from Mauer.
I think that's been the pitch for Brandon Mauer out of the bullpen. See the shift on the right side against Jimmy Rollins.
Just missing. 1-1. Adrian Gonzalez, favorite umpire. Doug Edding says he didn't go.
Good point.
You see the J-roll shift. Does Mitch by much. 2-1. Two and 2. 95 on the fastball from Mauer.
You talk about consistent strike zone. Jim Wolf tonight, 13 years in the big leagues. Brother of Randy Wolf, a former Padre left-hander in 2008.
Rollins reaches for the 2-2. Yonder Alonso, second opportunity. Nicely done. One away. Let's check in with Chris Budden as we talk about this bullpen situation.
Yeah, well, Brandon Mauer was down yesterday because of usage. So is Joaquin Benoit. Both of them available today. And I talked with bullpen coach Willie Blair about how he manages the usage of his bullpen guys, because Mauer had pitched 7 of the last 11 games, Benoit 5 of the last 7. Willie said, I don't go by a number of pitches thrown, just mainly go by feel. And he says what you'll notice is that even though there may have been 4 games,
Upton comes in and makes the catch. 2 away.
even though there may have been 4 games where Joaquin did not pitch, he said what you don't notice is there were a couple games where he was up and down in the bullpen, still getting some usage. So he did say, hey, yesterday was September. Those guys would have been live. But you have to be careful about their usage so that they don't get injured, because you need them the rest of the season.
Yeah, to your point, Chris, and thank you for that report. You've got to have them for September. And that's what the mentality is for Willie Blair, the bullpen coach, and also the pitching coaches in the dugout. You have to watch that and monitor what they are doing out there at all times.
2 outs for Jock Peterson with nobody aboard, and that is such a big part of the game and such a silent part of the game. You know, you don't really hear about it unless there's a situation where you expect to see the closer or the setup guy and he doesn't come out. And as you see, plenty of work for the Padre bullpen this month. And a nice change from Mauer to get Peterson 1-1. Managing a bullpen is a very complicated thing to do. It's not as simple as he's our 9th inning guy, he's our 8th inning guy. Not all the time, at least.
Probably the biggest challenge for managers, and not Buddy Black because he's a veteran manager, but all of these guys that are taking on that role will probably say managing a bullpen is probably the hardest thing and the hardest challenge as a manager in the big leagues.
And that's a long list of challenges.
Media.
That's nothing to this guy. Final game of this series tomorrow at 12:30. James Shields. Kids Fest, Military Sunday. Always a special day. Mauer trying to finish off Peterson, who looks like he's got something in his eye, maybe. Brandon Mauer's allowed just 1 run over his last 20 outings, and you see the clipboard in the hand of Willie Blair. Keeping track of every little thing
Yeah, some people in baseball think he's going to be a very successful pitching coach, not only a bullpen coach, but a pitching coach in the game of baseball. So the strength of this coaching staff for the Padres.
Payoff pitch from Mauer, and he got him. Peterson was all crossed up on the changeup, and hey, what do you know? Another 1-2-3 inning for Brandon Mauer. He keeps us tied up 1-1. As we go to the bottom of the 8th inning, the Padres will be sending the top of the order up against Zach Greinke. Some electricity in the ballpark tonight as Will Myers tries to bunt his way on, but Zach Greinke is cat-like defensively, and he makes the play. There's another reason he's like Greg Maddux. Not a bad idea for Myers trying to get something going here in a tie game, bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, and it was. And you see Zach Greinke getting off the mound and becoming that extra infielder. Easy Gold Glove winner last year, in my estimation.
Went 17-8 last season with a 2.71 ERA, and he was the second best pitcher on his team by a mile.
Yeah, by a lot. The 1-2 punch of the Dodgers.
Still haven't found that October success as he delivers strike one to Venable. Will's got a couple of hits tonight against Greinke, who's allowed 7. But just the one run that Venable scored back in the first. Nice curve, 0-2. The closer. Gotta figure you'll see him either way in the top of the 9th. Greinke got Myers on one pitch, and he's going to need at least one more for Venable, who laid off that changeup. 1-2. Thunder's coming. Lays off. Nice job. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Nice job, Doug Eddings. Greinke finally approaching 100 pitches. An interesting guy, and obviously a talented pitcher. Venable chops that one, and another assist opportunity for Greinke. 2 away. James Shields, Mike Bolsinger, the pitching matchup tomorrow. Get an opportunity to see the Padre ace come on out to Petco Park, or join us on Fox Sports San Diego beginning at 12:30. Military Sunday, Family Sunday, and an opportunity for revenge against Bolsinger for the Padres.
Pretty good chance you're going to see a heavy dose of curveballs from Bolsinger. That was his success last time out against the Padres.
Seen a lot of them in the first 2 games of this series, too. 2 outs, nobody aboard for Justin Upton, and the fastball misses outside.
Jesse, no doubles defense for the Dodgers, especially in this situation. Try to eliminate those gaps by playing a little bit deeper.
That curveball is a called strike by Jim Wolf. Just a little bit outside on Nissan Fox tracks, but he gets the call. Kershaw used the curve. Greinke's been using it, and as Mark Sweeney just said, you know, Bolsinger's going to use it tomorrow. The 1-1 pitch goes Upton's way. Three and 1. Away, 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 away to Justin Upton, with Matt Kemp waiting to hit next. That's the mantra. Deep breath from Greinke, and the 3-1 to Upton. Nice slider, 3-2.
Not one pitch on the inside part of the plate, and tonight this has been the pitch to Justin Upton, that slider by Zach Greinke. The powerful approach, and just swinging and missing on that slider.
Payoff pitch, and Upton hits it well to left center field. It is up and gone. Justin Upton takes Zach Greinke deep with 2 outs in the 8th, his 13th of the year, and the Padres take a lead.
Jesse, you think about magical moments, and Justin Upton has had those in a Padre uniform, also in his career. But this has to feel the best in a Padre uniform. The breaking ball, and it leaps over the middle of the plate, and he deposits it. Take a look. All power hitters love the mistake pitch, and they earned it in the pose, and he knows it's gone.
Second straight night that the Padres get a dramatic late-inning home run. Last night it was Derek Norris. Tonight, Justin Upton. Interestingly, 4 umpires are standing around talking about something. And I am not quite sure what they're going to review here.
The thing I can think of is possibly rounding the bases. Maybe touching every single one. Possibly the fan reaching over. I'm trying to figure this one out.
There was a fan who kind of extended for it, but I think he was well back of the fence in left field. You see the guy reaching, but that's 8 feet behind the wall.
Yeah, it looks to me like it's Padre fan, but there's enough space in between there.
Yeah. It's a homer. Weird. Yeah, I could see that if the fan were up against the fence. But that's one of those places where the fences have been moved over the years, and he's way back of the wall. 2-1 Padres, Matt Kemp. And he swings to the first pitch, and it's going to be a third assist for Zach Greinke in the inning, but that's not what mattered here in the bottom of the 8th. That guy is what mattered. Justin Upton. His 13th home run of the season. A moonshot to left center. And it's Kimbrel time at Petco. 2-1 after 8. Two outs in the bottom of the 8th inning. He has provided all kinds of highlights so far this season. And the Padres will turn it over to the very capable Craig Kimbrel, who's going to be asked to pick up a save. He's got 15.
You look at Craig Kimbrel's body of work, and it's about saves and saves opportunity. Take that ERA out because that's going down, but he is going to have to earn it when he faces Yasiel Puig, Adrian Gonzalez, and Howie Kendrick, the heart of the order.
ERA for Kimbrel about 2 runs lower in save situations than non-save situations, and certainly he's not the only closer to see that kind of split. Sort of the usual thing, but as Mark just said, those guys coming up 2, 3, and 4 in the batting order. Buddy Black fortifying his defense a little bit here in the 9th inning. Just one previous at bat against Kimbrel for Yasiel Puig.
First pitch swinging, last at bat. Let's see how aggressive he is.
It's a fastball, and he blew it right by him at 98. Zach Greinke on the hook. 22-2 against the National League West since joining the Dodgers. This could be loss number 3. That's ball number 1. Kimbrel recently picked up his 200th career save. Got there in just 318 games. Did it more quickly than anyone ever has. Strike 2. Some of the defense moving around. Alonso back to familiar ground at first base. Will Middlebrooks in at third. Will Myers out of the game. Challenged him again, and at 99, Puig fouls it back.
Yeah, the delivery of Craig Kimbrell and hiding the baseball plus the velocity makes it a huge challenge for the opposing hitters.
Another fastball and another foul ball.
Very aggressive with the fastball. All fastballs to Yasiel Puig. See if it's time to bust out the curveball here.
Can't hold on. Still 2-2.
Now he has plenty of options. Can expand the strike zone with a curveball and also change eye levels with the fastball. In these situations, you don't necessarily have to throw a strike.
Eighth pitch of the at-bat coming. And a fastball up the middle for a base hit. Puig bounces one through as Venable gets it back in. Leadoff single for Puig against Kimbrell here in the ninth.
Again, only one curveball and the fastball leaks over middle away. Just bounces up the middle. Nice at bat by Yasiel Puig against the closer for the Padres.
Adrian.
Infielders communicating, especially on the ground ball.
Sellout crowd at Petco. Been given a treat tonight. And another check on Puig.
See Corey Spangenberg right over here. He is in the pull mode. So the communication is who's handling second base on the double play. Possible Amarista taking the double play no matter where it is.
Called strike. 98 from Kimbrell. And 0-1 to Gonzalez. Puig has attempted one stolen base this season. He was thrown out. Played in just 16 games as Don Mattingly weighs his options. Ball one. The dangerous Howie Kendrick is next. And if it gets to him, the Padre killers after that, Turner and Ethier. Little roller back to Kimbrell. Goes to second for one. Back to first. Double play. Third time in 2 nights that Adrian Gonzalez has grounded into a twin killing. And the Padres are 1 out away here in the ninth.
Now, this is just an outstanding pitch by Craig Kimbrell, inducing the ground ball with the curveball. And also taking your time. Craig Kimbrell gets the ball, takes his time, makes an accurate throw, and watch Alexi Amarista hang in there. Take a look at Alexi Amarista. You want to be a middle infielder? Yasiel Puig comes in hard, and he holds his ground for the double play. Outstanding double play by the middle infielder.
Strike one to Kendrick. Boy, you see a lot of numbers like that around the league. Taking a look back at our keys to the game, brought to you by your San Diego Honda dealers.
Well, a masterful outing by Ian Kennedy, 7 innings, 4 strikeouts, and a bounce-back effort. How about the Fighting Pods having the opportunity to take down Zach Greinke for the first time? Oh, what a pitch. Well, Fox Tracks had that off, but that is a laser beam on that edge of the plate.
Got him! Kimbrell closes the door. And the Padres even the series. Justin Upton solo shot in the 8th. And for the first time, the Padres beat Zach Greinke. More importantly, they even the series. And they take game 2 against the Dodgers.
Well, the wipeout curveball, you wonder why you have Craig Kimbrell in the uniform? These situations, this is a huge win for the San Diego Padres and a great save by Craig Kimbrell.
2-1 the final score. Mike Pomerantz has Padres Live, the postgame show. Mike?
Jesse, thank you very much. When we see in just a couple of moments, we'll talk about Justin Upton's heroics. Perfect time, perfect guy in the perfect spot. Also, we're going to hear from Buddy Black and more on To Start Tonight by Ian Kennedy.